Hey guys, I'm Randy Unger, and this is another episode of Unger the Radar, where we talk all things film. And with me tonight, I have a wonderful panel of guest critics tonight. We have back to the show, Rachel Kolb. Rachel, welcome back.
Hi, good to be back. I could not pick two better movies to come back with. So.
Well put, well put. And Mr. Eric Godfrey, welcome back, sir.
I'm really happy to be here.
We've got some wonderful movies to talk about tonight. But first, I'd just like to go around and do weekly watches. What are you guys watching this week, Rachel?
So I've been very obsessed with the TV show Succession. And the last few weeks have really been amping things up. It's really the best of what I think Adam McKay can offer when he's venturing more into the real world and less away from comedy. It's honestly, I'm really excited to see where things are going after this week.
Okay. Yeah, and it's got a great cast led by Brian Cox, who's great in everything pretty much.
Absolutely phenomenal.
You know,
Yeah.
I've loved him since Rushmore, but even before then, I think. But Succession, I'm going to add that to my list if it has your recommendation. I keep seeing ads for it. So yeah, I definitely have to check that one out.
Yes. Oh, and one other thing that I have been watching this week also on HBO Max, I've been watching We're Here, which is, I believe I've mentioned it before. It's three drag queen performers, Bob the Drag Queen, Shangela, and Eureka O'Hara. And they go from city to city in a small town, and especially Midwest and Southern United States. And they put on drag shows and sometimes help people get into drag for the first time, and it's amazing and very heartwarming.
Is this a docuseries?
Yes, it is.
Nice. Sounds good. I love it. Yeah, I'll be honest, the extent of my drag content is the Rocky Horror Picture Show, which is wonderful, I must say. But I definitely have to get into your two recommendations tonight. And right off the bat, that's great, Rachel. Very good. Eric, what are you watching this week, sir?
Well, I'm in the same camp with Succession. This season has just been off to a phenomenal start, and it's as good as everybody talks about. So the show is just addicting, and I cannot get enough of watching these very rich people, and it's who are in a very gilded cage.
Okay.
And just watching it's definitely a very interesting story about abuse and wealth, and it is as good as everyone says, and I'm loving this season. And the other one that I'm finally watching on your recommendation is I'm finally watching Curb Your Enthusiasm.
Oh, yes.
So, and I have not laughed that hard in a very long time.
Did you start from season 1?
I did. I started right from the beginning.
It only gets better. It's great.
I've already gotten to the entire thing with the producers. I could not stop laughing.
Nice. Yeah. You really, you went, you've watched a lot of it so far. That's pretty great.
Oh, I can't. It's one of those ones that once I put it on, I just can't stop.
I'm with you on that. It's like, okay, one more. Okay.
Exactly.
Two more.
Exactly. It's like, what more can Larry get himself into? What more troubles can his inability to let things go cause?
And we're in season 11, and it's like over more than 20 years since the show debuted on HBO. So yeah, Larry David's insane. I love him.
Oh yeah.
I mean, it's weird too because it's it's got that same Seinfeld flavor, but it's its own unique thing as well. It's like its own entity. So it's kind of they complement each other well, but they're very different at the same time.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. But you can definitely, there's the fingerprints there from Larry David in both.
I love that. But back to Succession. This sounds amazing. It has like sounds like a little Sopranos. Am I mistaken there?
Or? It's kind of like the Trump family mixed with the Murdoch family.
Yes.
That's very much the feel that you get with it. Media mogul, has his hands in all these different things, from theme parks to cable news,
Mhm.
and um, he's very old, has a lot of health problems, and all of his kids are vying for who's going to take over.
Nice. I love it. I love it. And Adam McKay, obviously known for his comedies, his comedic work. So it's really nice to see him kind of branch out.
Succession is a dark comedy. There are moments where you're just like, especially there's a character, Cousin Greg, who is the ultimate fail upwards.
Okay.
And he is an idiot, and he is the most lovable idiot.
Nice, nice.
Yeah, he is. He's just, and it's also his physical presence as an actor.
Mhm.
Like, he's a very tall, lanky,
Mm.
dorky. Like, it's crazy that he's so tall, but constantly feels like just like the kid in the room of every
Mhm.
room that he's in.
Okay.
Always seems kind of doofusy and not really knowing exactly what's going on.
Gotcha. All right. And that's on HBO Max. How many seasons are they up to?
They just started the third season.
Third season. Okay. So I could
Well,
probably
they're good ways into the third season at this point. So
Mhm. I think it's like episode 5 of season 3, I believe.
Okay. Cool. I'll check out the pilot and get back to you guys.
Yeah, definitely.
Cool.
the
Cool.
pilot episode is great.
Nice.
Mhm.
It kicks right off.
I'll be honest with you. If the pilot doesn't grab me like right away, then I'm probably not going to follow through with it.
Oh no, I feel you completely on that. But what I can tell you is Succession from the get-go knows what it is.
Okay.
So that's what really helps the pilot is it's like it's not trying to find itself right from moment one. It's like we know what this show is, we know who these characters are, and it's just boom. It's just right out the gate.
Cool. I love it. I love it already.
Mhm.
Not like Ted Lasso, which I think I got 2 episodes in, and I know, Rachel, you're a big fan, but I kind of lost interest.
Ted Lasso, you need that third episode.
It's the third one. Okay.
Yep.
See,
All right.
I loved it from the first episode, but
I understand that. But for me, season 3, because season 3 is everyone's favorite reporter from the Independent, Trent Krim, and his outing with Ted, and I feel like that is when the show really, if the show is going to, that's when those hooks really start getting into is the stuff with Trent Krim and Ted Lasso having basically a day together.
Okay.
yeah. I will say that I think that since you're such a fan of Seinfeld and Curb, like, it is very much kind of the opposite of both of those. Whereas both of those shows are full of characters that are basically trying to get away with as much terrible stuff as they can. Ted Lasso is basically like just very sweet and all that. So,
Mhm.
so who knows? It might not be your particular taste.
Yeah. Well, with Eric's opinion, definitely I'll check out the third episode, see what happens. Maybe some magic will come, but we'll see. As for me, if I'm not watching stuff for the show, I have been actually, I'm almost done with season 2 of Mad About You, which I love. I really wish I got into this sooner, but I was too young at the time when it first came out. It was about the same time as Seinfeld, actually, and Friends. Lisa Kudrow is actually a supporting role as a waitress, Ursula, and that is
because that's the link between Friends and Mad About You is Ursula is the same character between the both of them.
Exactly, and I think Kramer is in an episode in the first season, if I'm not mistaken.
I think you're right. Yeah.
Yeah. So they're all like interconnected New York City stories in the '90s. So it's really cool.
Well, I know there's a gag in Friends of when Helen Hunt and Paul Reiser come into the coffee shop and they see Phoebe and assume it's Ursula. And there's a huge joke about that.
Oh, nice. Thanks for the spoiler, Eric. Just kidding. I'll get to that eventually.
But that's in Friends. That's not in Mad
About You.
Okay,
gotcha.
So,
gotcha. But that's cool. So yeah, right now, all the episodes, all the seasons are on Amazon Prime Video. So if anyone wants to get a little nostalgic with '90s sitcoms, Mad About You, it's great. It's also great for couples, I must say. But yeah, it's just a really tender, genuine love story between 2 people in New York, and it's I don't know. I like it a lot. It's fun stuff. All right, guys. So enough TV talk. Let's get into the movie stuff.
Bring it.
Tonight we have three films, three very different films, and they are first up, Eternals, the Marvel superhero team epic. And then we're going to follow that with Cusp, which is a interesting documentary about three young girls in Texas, basically entering teenhood. And we were going to finish things off tonight with Belfast, the new Kenneth Branagh film, which is sort of semi-autobiographical of the director's life in late 60s Northern Ireland. And these movies are so different, but I really enjoyed each of them. Well, two out of the three. The first one that I didn't love was Eternals, the latest Marvel epic, and this movie it's about 3 hours long. With trailers, it's definitely over 3 hours. Mm-hmm. And I just found it. I mean, Eric, I know you're the Marvel expert out of the three of us. This movie was just flat out boring. I'm sorry. I mean, the visual effects are great. The costume design, beautiful. Production design, great. Chloe Zhao, who directed the film and I think co-wrote it, basically, this is her follow-up to Nomadland, which won Best Picture earlier this year. And it's an interesting way to follow that up with Eternals. But this movie was too long. It needed a lot of tightening up. It was just very boring in some parts, and I had a real hard time enjoying it for the most part. There were bits that were good, but overall, it left me it just felt very dull. Eric, I know you may have some thoughts here.
I'm definitely in the opposite camp. I do get the pacing issues. I do think it is long, and I have most of my gripes I think it takes way too long to get going, and that ending, oof, oof, way to just suck all the air out of the room with the last 10 minutes. I'm just like, ah, right. But but as far as the movie goes, I found it to be incredibly fascinating, because the Eternals was always going to be, when they announced it to me, like, this is the hard one. Because even when they were like, we're going to do Guardians of the Galaxy, I'm like, well, Guardians of the Galaxy is weird and out there, but you got a comedy filmmaker doing a movie that ultimately, that no matter how good or bad it does, you're going to have a raccoon, a tree, this weird science fiction stuff. But Eternals is Jack Kirby coming back to Marvel after all his work on DC and basically being like, what if I told a literal Genesis Bible story for Marvel? And this was when Kirby was in his crazy science fiction. Okay. And for Eternals captured a fraction of the craziness that Jack Kirby got into, because Eternals is very difficult to read, because I mean, there's just so much, and so they cut out a lot of things to try and make it make sense. And when it works for me is the Eternals themselves. This movie had to introduce, what was it, basically an entire Justice League, six new people, and the parts that really worked for me was watching this family and actually genuinely feeling for them.
Okay.
Like, I loved each member of the Eternals. Like, these characters were fantastic. Well, and that's what really made the movie for me.
I'll tell you, I mean, the characters for me, they seemed a little wooden. They seemed a little uninteresting, underdeveloped. But I did like the actors behind the characters. I thought, it's a phenomenal cast. You've got Gemma Chan, Richard Madden, Kumail Nanjiani,
who really stole the show. Like the one, like Kumail Kingo, really stole the show for me. He brought so much energy to it. And Brian Tyree Henry, as always, whenever he shows up, is always doing so much heavy lifting.
Right. And speaking of speaking of Henry, his role in this, there's a moment in the film that's is a little controversial actually in foreign countries. I'm
Mhm.
not going to spoil it or anything, but Marvel opted to just go forward with it and just keep it in the movie, and I'm glad they did, because it's a very powerful message that they sent.
Right. And it's just like in Gilgamesh and like I said, when you see these characters coming together, you really get the sense that this is a family that's been broken apart and is coming together. And what I appreciate, and I think why this is probably the hardest Marvel movie so far, is because this one is really shooting for the moon with some big ideas and some big stuff. And
Mm,
the fact that this is a Marvel movie where you have a very big threat of like probably the huge thing going on. Like
right.
when we get the Celestials, and you only got to see one of them.
Hmm. Right. Right.
And as they got the scope and the scale of the Celestials, like Arishem, it's like, yep, you're just this little thumbtack on his little thumb.
Yeah.
And and and
Gives
and I just appreciated this, like even though this is how small you felt now in the grand scheme of things, and the fact that this is a movie that presents these characters having to go through some very tough choices, very asking themselves of human life and worth and value and dependency, and instead of beating each other up while trying to explain I'm right, whatever, it's them actually talking and having disagreements and
right.
sussing it out with each other rather than just big action set pieces whenever someone disagrees with them.
Right, and that's why Chloe Zhao was a good choice for this, for those moments, those character interactions.
Mhm.
But in terms of an epic, full-blown action movie, I think she's not quite there yet. I don't think she was the right choice for those moments. But the
But
family aspect that you
mhm,
mentioned was very much her.
you can say that, but I guess I would disagree with one. The action was good. Like one, we got probably the best version of Superman I've ever seen. Like I know it's a little controversial, but Icarus,
Yeah.
he
No,
does a much better Superman than Superman.
I like Richard Madden.
Um,
I don't know the man's work too well, but he
mhm.
sold me on that. Yeah.
But and then the last 10 minutes aside, the
Mhm.
end, the third act, essentially the big moment, I thought was one of the most visually
Mm.
spectacular things Marvel's ever put on. Like the imagery of
Yeah.
what happens in that final thing was just like, wow.
Yeah.
Like I was taken, even for like Marvel, after putting 50 billion Avengers fighting Thanos in Endgame.
Right.
They put an image on screen that just floored me. Like my jaw was on the ground when everything was all said and done.
It looked really, no, it definitely looked great. And the main complaint, too long. I think it would
Mhm.
have worked better, maybe 2 hours instead of 2.5. But Rachel, what did you think of Eternals?
I totally agree with what you just said about that it is too long. I think that some of the weaknesses of the movie are its need to have to set up things for the future of the franchises,
Hmm.
as opposed to just being its own thing. I really, really loved. I did not expect to love Angelina Jolie in this movie,
Hmm.
but I thought she was really wonderful.
Hmm.
I really loved the story arc of her character, of her being this incredibly strong, powerful person that basically has what could be a stand-in for a chronic illness and
Hmm.
has someone that she loves that's caring for her, and the fact that she still has value and that she's still loved by everyone even though she doesn't still have the that she still can't like go out and fight the way that she once did, that it's like that's okay, we still love you and we will still care for you and you don't have to be that.
That is
um
really interesting. The mental illness angle. I didn't really catch that fully. I got a sense of it, but that's a good take actually.
Yeah, it could definitely also be a stand-in for things like, say, like early onset dementia.
Mhm.
It could be even like a physical chronic illness.
Yeah.
But I thought that relationship between her and, is it
Gilgamesh.
Gilgamesh? Yeah,
Mm.
yes. I absolutely loved the two of them. I thought they were great. I also, as I think, as you remember, have a great love for the deaf and hard of hearing community. So the introduction of the first deaf superhero was really amazing to me. The fact that they did that and they did that correctly, that they had just this amazing deaf actress playing that role, and I really enjoyed that.
Yeah.
Um,
Hmm.
I think for me, the weakest parts of the movie are I don't really care for the setup with Kit Harington in the future movies. I
Hmm.
think that's done really poorly.
Hmm.
I think that the civilization at the beginning that they're really enmeshed in and that they're, living amongst, I feel like is a bit too nondescript.
Hmm.
I don't like, and maybe that's by intention that it's supposed to be kind of the way that gods are seeing them as just like a mass of people as opposed to individuals. But it made me really hard to connect with that part of the story.
Hmm.
And of course, that ending just really frustrated me. I wish that it would have ended with the big showdown and with them on the beach and
Hmm.
all that. I wish it would have just ended there and not done a cliffhanger. We'll see you next time in the next Eternals, which I don't even
True.
know how long we're gonna have to wait for that movie.
I
Which
don't
made the
know.
whole like the thing that I'd been sitting in a theater at that point for about 3 hours with the previews and everything really feel
Right.
unsatisfying.
I think I'd want to see more of like the Eternals through time. Like we hinted on that by showing
Mhm.
different civilizations,
Yes.
different eras. They could have gone to in so many fascinating directions with that story, with those settings. I think that was just a missed opportunity, but maybe we'll get a quote unquote prequel series. I don't know what we'll get, but I'm open to seeing more Eternal stories. Maybe I'll check out the comics. I think they might have been displayed in a better light. Eric, I don't know.
I mean, maybe, like I said, this is Jack Kirby in his cosmic craziness. So they're very controversial in terms of the comics. So I think Zhao honestly probably did the best adaptation of it you could without spending like 7 hours.
Right.
Just like here are all the Celestials. Here are what they do.
Yeah.
Like the fact that she was just like, we're just going to do one Celestial. We're just going to
Right.
do one.
Keep it, yeah, no, keep it simple because people like myself, we don't really know the lore of
Mhm.
Eternals. This is the first time I've really seen an Eternal story. And I was a little nervous going into it, thinking it'd be kind of just like another Marvel superhero team story. Avengers, Guardians, Fantastic Four to a certain extent,
Mhm.
X-Men, it's all been done before. But the fact that they've lived among us for millennia, that's kind of a cool idea.
Mhm.
So
Yeah. The whole
uh,
sequence with Brian Tyree Henry's character,
mm,
like literally seeing the dropping of the bomb
mhm,
was really that was a very powerful moment. And having that be his moment of really breaking with humanity as a whole and wanting to give them technology to make them better. I
Mhm.
thought that was a really great moment.
yeah,
And like what you
Mhm.
said, it would be really cool to get to see them more at some of those pivotal moments in human history.
right,
but
kind of
but
like
that's
yeah,
and that's kind of where I'm like, that's why I said, like, I think the thing that really for me makes this movie is the characters. Like, there is the cosmic craziness, there is all that stuff, but at the core of it are these people dealing with very practical, like, even though they are godlike, then these are the most powerful creatures on the planet, essentially,
mm,
that they are still dealing with a very human thing. They are dealing with the idea of worth and the idea of worth to each other.
mm,
And even a character like Druig, for example, I love, again, the struggle of of knowing that he can stop so much and not being able to, and instead of it heading into, again, like a fist fight, like him and Icarus coming to a blows or something, it is them dealing with him, talking to him, like, it's them having these conversations of what is the value of a human life and when is it right to step up and do something, as opposed to believing in, essentially, I mean, especially in the biblicalness of this, like, do you believe in God's plan, or do you interfere? I really appreciate, and I thought that, and like I really liked that, the idea of dealing with these very big issues, and the fact that you have this family that is fractured over this in a way that some are like, no, stick to the plan, and some are like, no,
Yeah.
that's a bad plan.
Mhm.
Interesting. Yeah. Yeah. Morality is definitely in question.
Mhm.
And again, I think Chloe Zhao, she did a decent job here. But I think she should stick to the smaller scale films, more character driven, more human stories. But you know what? I think, Eric, I think I asked you prior to seeing Eternals if this was
Mhm.
something to see. Like, would this be a good first Marvel movie to see, in preparation for all the previous future films, rather?
I think it's going to be the most difficult one because it's the one that asks a lot of suspension. Like it's the thing is building up to basically 6 magic rocks in a glove that can wipe out half of all life with the snap. The movies build up to that, and in this one, we're talking about giant beings of cosmos that can
Right.
just with a snap, create these entities and then are just these massive. And so it's on a scale and a spectacle level, it's very hard, but at least as the story goes, it's probably the one that's the most divorced from Marvel. Like,
Mm,
yes, there's little nods to, hey, Thanos did this, or Captain America's gone, who, little side things, but
yeah.
ultimately the Eternals are dealing with their own thing.
Right.
And they're not like calling in Tony Stark. They're not like wondering what's going on. It's their problem and they're going to deal with it. And the Marvel universe as a whole is kept out, which is very true to the Eternals as a whole. But
Okay.
and so it's kind of tough to say like whether or not it'd be a good starting point. But I think it's the one that you need the least amount of what happened in all the other movies to appreciate.
Gotcha. All right. Well, that's what I needed to know, and I thank you for that, sir.
No
Um,
problem.
Rachel, would you recommend Eternals to people?
I would. I would recommend it with the caveats that I put forward, that I feel like the movie does not have a satisfying ending to it.
Hmm.
Um, and also that it takes a bit to get started. For
Yeah.
me, as I said, the first part with the first man tribe and everything was not super compelling.
Hmm.
Um, and it took me quite a while to really get behind the Icarus, like that sort of romance storyline. I thought the initial setup of it was actually very corny. And the whole thing of, oh, we're having our first sex scene in a Marvel movie, also similarly kind of corny. Um, but I would recommend it for basically everything that's in the middle. Everything that I think that's in the middle is very solid and very
Yeah.
good.
Okay.
Um, Yeah, and especially I think Kamal Nanjiani
Oh.
and the character who plays his producer, I think are both fantastic. I really enjoyed them.
If Disney Plus put out a series with just those two, that would be amazing.
They can do like many things of all of Kingo's movies.
Yeah,
Yes.
I love it. Eric, I think it's safe to say you would recommend this.
I would. I think it's the one of I understand why this is the most divisive of the Marvel movies because it is meant to be. It is definitely the least crowd pleasing, and it's the one that asks a lot more questions than Marvel is usually used to, and it takes a lot of big swings and doesn't hit them all. Again, that ending just like you have that spectacular
Mm.
like final confrontation and then just the last 10 minutes is just like somebody just it's just like
Yeah,
the ball deflated. But
yeah,
besides that, I think all of this is still these are great characters and I loved watching them interact. I loved seeing their journeys. And I if there's a reason to go back for more Eternals for me, it's to see this family
yeah.
together again because that was the highlight for me, and that's where I definitely recommend it because it is the most fascinating thing Marvel has done.
It's kind of like a sort of a brighter Justice League in a weird way.
Which is interesting considering how much Zhao said Snyder was an influence on her for
Oh,
this.
that is interesting. Oh, okay.
And considering I'm not the biggest Snyder fan, I'll take Zhao's version any day over. Oh, for the Snyder cut.
Yeah, but that's a discussion I think for another
Yeah,
episode.
entirely different thing.
I think we had that discussion.
We did.
But for me, again, the length, yes, big complaint there, and also the final battle with all the the deviants, that formula of having all these creatures fly at the screen and this huge battle. I'm really tired of Hollywood just force feeding that formula on us. It's just too much already. I really wish there would be some originality in a final act, but that's what the audience wants, and that's what the audience gets. But yeah, okay, so Eternals is now out in theaters, so check that out. And right now we're just going to take a short commercial break, but we'll be back with more movie reviews right after this.
Under the Radar is brought to you by Magnitude Jewelry. Add a 2 to match your attitude. Patent pending, interchange genuine gemstone and crystal EMF protection jewelry. For more information, please visit magnitudejewelry.com/gemgirl or call 718-268-6634.
Hey guys, welcome to the show. Under the Radar, Randy Younger here. And we've got 2 more films, guys. Rachel, unfortunately, you did not get a chance to see this one, but I highly recommend it. It's called Cusp, and it is a documentary, follows 3 young girls in Texas, and basically they're transitioning from basically girl to teen, and they are experimenting with drugs, with sex, with alcohol, basically kind of learning about themselves. And for me, it kind of felt like the movie Kids from 1995, which followed a group of young New York teenagers. Took 1995 in Manhattan, and basically they get into all kinds of trouble. Cusp is no different. These girls they're discovering things about themselves, and the filmmakers, they really did a good job of following them and documenting them. And I thought it was a really well-made documentary. I recommend it. Eric, what did you think of Cusp?
I went through a lot of emotions watching Cusp. A lot of anger, a lot of despair, and ultimately depression.
God,
It's a
sorry.
rough
I am
documentary.
sorry, sir.
No. I mean, it's good because what it captures at its core is it's basically saying here is the next generation of kids turning into adults, and it is really showing that we are doing a very bad job trying to make sure that they escape childhood unbroken. And especially in a lot of these small towns, and I know Texas, it's going to get a bad rap because it's Texas, but I think this is very true for a lot of these small towns everywhere, not just in Texas. Of you basically have an entire generation with with their families already broken for whatever reason. I know one of the even though I think it's set off screen, one of the girls, their dad is a veteran suffering from PTSD,
Yeah.
who was never shown on camera, in this weird ominous thing of him always being off screen screaming and yelling from behind a door, which speaks volumes to me about this. And that you have these girls that are already just casually sitting around talking about their sexual assaults,
Yeah.
about the time when, like, literally using it as and one point where a girl's just like using it to attack her mother, being like, well, you don't tell me I can't go to a party, your ex-boyfriend molested me. And it's just like, and just how frank they are about it, because they've already at the ages of 15 and 16 accepted that what these men are doing, literally them saying, what are we supposed to do, that they've already given up on terms of they don't have control of their own bodies.
Yeah.
And just how just like jarring that is to see.
Yeah, you go from these horrific moments to moments of levity with like, awkward humor, and then back to the painful stuff. It's like this movie, it's a documentary with a lot of twists and turns, a lot of ups and downs.
Yeah.
But so is life. So and I think that's what a good documentary does. That it captures those highs and lows.
And I think it's remarkable how good the documentarians got these girls and the people around them, the mother and the other people, to just be so open with them. And I think that's why this documentary just hurts so much in that way, is because there's no filters here. These girls are 100% okay with being, they don't want to hide nothing from the filmmakers.
Right.
And they capture everything. And I think it's a very honest movie about that. And that honesty is what translates to those emotions.
They're almost, not even almost, they are in fact proud of all these horrible things that happen to them. And it's like they don't care. I mean, they're young girls.
Well, they're like I said, they're broken, and they're coming from broken families. They're bored, and all they have around them is a ton of drugs, a ton of alcohol, a ton of sex, and a ton of guns, and time to use all of them all the time. And just how that is a bad the boredom with a combination of easy access to all of this is a terrible combination.
True.
I wonder, just jumping in real quick, not having seen the documentary, but from what you're describing with some of these girls, I wonder if it's a case that they feel like they can either be a victim or they can just kind of wear it and wear what's happened to them, and just be that much more bold about it.
Which one of them you hit the nail completely on the head. Like she's literally drowning herself in alcohol, very much in a way of numbing the pain. And you're absolutely right in terms of it's easier for me to just embrace it because I'm not going to have a choice in the matter anyway.
Yeah, it's terrible. It's scary, and the filmmakers they just let this stuff happen, let these conversations go, and it's like, let's see how far these girls can discuss sex and in the like worst detail. But I thought it was a fine film. I try to see more documentaries on my show here. It's mostly science fiction and dramedies, but occasionally
from giant celestial gods and eternal superheroes to 3 girls in Texas.
Well, if you want to see the other side of things, if you're looking at Texas, might I recommend another great documentary that is on Apple Plus called Boys State. If you have not seen it.
I have heard of that. Yeah. Okay.
Very, very good.
Gonna get into it. But Rachel, real quick, what are your thoughts on documentaries now? What do you think is the goal of a documentary?
I mean, I feel like that depends on the documentary filmmaker, because there's some that they want to kind of push the genre and figure out new ways to kind of expand the notion of what is a documentary. Actually, when Eric and I went to go see Belfast the other night, there was a trailer for a movie called Flee that actually takes the, from what I can understand, the audio interviews with someone that had to flee their country, and they actually animated it.
Oh, cool.
To retell the story of what happened with him and getting separated from his brother and from his family.
Okay. Good stuff. Flee, you said?
Yeah, Flee. F-L-E-E. Yeah.
Like fleeing the country.
Yes.
And I mean, there's also filmmakers that their sole goal is not to put their own agenda into it, which you of course have the two opposite ends of that. You have people like Michael Moore that it's all about the particular angle or the particular spin that they want to put on it. But then there's people like, if I can plug for a second, Marshall Curry, really great documentary filmmakers that want to just kind of see where things go. They want to put themselves into the situation and be able to capture this footage and these real moments and be open to kind of where the story ends up going.
Okay. Well put again. I love it. That's great. So guys, Cusp is now out in select theaters and it's currently airing on Showtime. So check out Cusp. It's a very good documentary. All right, guys. So our final film of the evening is the Kenneth Branagh directed, and he also wrote this, Belfast. And like I said before, it is semi-autobiographical. Wow. And it takes place in the late 60s in Northern Ireland, where there is some conflict, to say the least. There's riots, there's looting, and all in the middle of it is a young boy played by newcomer Jude Hill in his first film, I believe.
Yes.
Fantastic, by the way. This young man is going to go very far. I could see it. And we've got a wonderful cast as well. Caitriona Balfe, Judi Dench, Jamie Dornan, Ciarán Hinds, Colin Morgan, and of course, young Jude Hill. And this film is shot in black and white, and I think that was a brilliant choice by Branagh. I love Branagh's work, especially I always mention his version of Cinderella from 2015. I thought that was just almost pretty much a perfect live action Disney adaptation. So good. So whatever he's involved with, I'll see, even Wild Wild West.
Well, and there's also your Richard Madden, since he played the prince in Cinderella.
You're right. Very good. Hey, I like the connection. There you go. But yeah, Belfast, it's a wonderful film. I think it's creeping up on my top 10 of the year so far. But yeah, guys, what did you think, Rachel?
Yes, I absolutely adore this movie. Right now, currently, it is my favorite film of the year.
Nice.
That, of course, is subject to change because I have not seen Tick Tick Boom yet.
Okay.
Which I know is also going to probably be in my top of the year. But Belfast, this movie had basically every feeling you could possibly feel in a movie is in this movie. There's so much humor in it, which I think is so accurate for the city of Belfast, and really accurate for any city that goes through turmoil like this.
Right.
I've been listening to a lot of the podcast Films to Be Buried with Brett Goldstein, and he was talking about how whenever you look at moments in history like the Holocaust or just these horrific things that happen, when you talk to the people that survived them, they always have jokes. They always have stories from it or things from that time that have genuine laughs in them. And I think that that's something that is very much through the whole movie. In fact, one of the biggest laughs happened right before a moment that just had me crying, which I'll just say the line, "It's biological," and you'll probably be able to know where I'm talking about in the movie.
Right.
But this movie is genuinely very funny. It's very heartfelt. All of the characters feel real. This feels like a neighborhood that you would, aside from all the violence, like the people that are in it, that you understand why you would want to, if you grew up in this neighborhood, why you would want to stay there, and you would want to raise your family and be able to know your neighbors, and the notion that it's like you don't just have a garden to play in, you have an entire block, you have all of these families and their households that know them and you trust them.
Yeah.
And the notion of leaving that being so difficult, and what finally, the series of events that leads a family to ask, do we leave or do we stay?
Yeah, and that notion of togetherness and family is definitely the main theme. It's the heart and soul of this film, and it's kind of like what was the heart and soul of Eternals in a weird way, if you can connect it to that. But yeah, basically the main conflict is the rioting, and that out of that ugliness we have a lot of beauty, which is really nice. And the adults in this movie, they're all pretty much crazy, except for Judi Dench and Ciarán Hinds. I always butcher that name.
But, I think it's Ciarán Hinds. Yeah,
Ciarán, excuse me.
Got to get that Irish.
Yeah, Ciarán.
That Celtic.
again, the characters in this are what makes the film soar, in my opinion. And it's a really beautiful story. Even the fact that it took place, some parts of it took place, makes it all the more powerful, and it really resonates. So I'm really happy that Kenneth Branagh went in that direction. Yeah, I'm trying to think of some negatives here, but I don't think I can come up with any at the moment.
I was actually telling Eric as we were leaving the movie last night,
Hmm.
going into it, he mentioned to me that he said, there's something you're going to love about this movie. It's only 90 minutes. Especially after doing Eternals, I was like, oh, that's wonderful. 90 minutes. That's nice little breezy 90 minutes.
It's
But
like a
there's
short film.
there's so much that's packed into that 90 minutes. Like you just feel like you really get to, spend like a year in the life of these characters
Mhm.
and get to see and feel what they feel. And the cinematography plays such a role in that too,
Oof.
because so much of it is
Mhm.
shot to feel like you were in the perspective of a kid, that you're constantly hearing conversations from like downstairs or from around the corner, or that you're like peering through grates, that or that
Right.
you're like looking up at things.
Yeah, and Brana did in a way that it didn't feel like a documentary or a mockumentary. It just
Mhm.
it felt so real, so organic, the way his command of the camera and the movements, especially
Mm.
the scenes where Jude Hill is like listening to his parents speak, and he's like hiding behind the wall on the other side of the wall. And Branagh did a great job
Oh
following
yeah.
this kid, and it was just, I don't know, it was just a really masterful
Th-
touch of really great filmmaking style.
yeah, no, I mean, Brown, like the fact, like the cinematography of this movie is gorgeous. Like it is one of the most beautifully shot films I've seen in a very long time, and I think a lot of that is owed to the fact that really this is a very small movie. We're on like
Right.
we're in these very small houses, like it, and so the fact that Branagh is constantly finding new ways to film in essentially a house that I think at most had like 3 rooms in it,
Right.
and between the buddy's house and his grandparents,
Hmm.
and just how remarkable how fresh he constantly makes this world feel,
Yeah.
and both very open and free but also very constricting, showing that like again that this is a child going through his normal childhood, dealing with everything from, well, the girl at school look at me, the one I have a crush on, or will I get my cousin's approval that I want to be as cool as she is, to having to deal with the fact that he's growing up during one of the worst, during the troubles in Ireland, as the Protestants and the Catholics are just killing each other over the fact that they both have different beliefs, and that this child can't even, and I love the child trying to even comprehend the difference between a Catholic and a Protestant, and how weirdly meaningless that is, but it's
Well, it's
still
the
enough
name.
that these
You
people are willing to
know, it's
kill
in
each
the
other
name.
over it.
That whole
Like,
conversation
yeah, like
was kind of
you got to
interesting.
double bluff them. If they say you're a Catholic, you say you're a Protestant, because they know you're going to say you're a Protestant because you're a Catholic.
And what I love, again, out of all the pain and turmoil that's going around,
Hmm.
there's such the innocence. This little boy
Hmm.
bringing, some flowers to this girl he has a crush on. It's like this is in the middle of all this rioting and violence and
Hmm.
all this horrible stuff. But in the center of it all, you have the most innocent and purest kid, and it's a great,
Yeah, and
contrast.
yeah, and we have it, and we've highlighted the child, and Jude Hill,
Yeah.
amazing performance for a child his age. That's remarkable. And Kieran Hines, whew,
Mhm.
did I just my heart bleed for him every time he was on screen. I
It
just
is
one of my favorite performances he's ever delivered.
his chemistry with Judi Dench is
It-
flawless.
mhm.
They are
And
perfect on screen together.
yes, they are. They absolutely, you feel the generation that the two of them represent, and you just feel that constant emotion between them. And I also have to say, like, Jamie Dornan delivered absolutely a
Hmm.
brilliant performance. And I'm going to butcher her name, the actress who played the mom. Like,
Oh
she
yeah,
was incredible, and I think that's what is. There was not a bad performance. Everybody was just on such a high level performance, and I think that's what makes this film so magical.
True.
And it's really incredible that Branagh managed to pull this off under like shooting during COVID.
Yep.
And actually like fairly like I think right in the midst of it, right in the midst of COVID. And they took extremely like careful measures with it. If you read up about the measures that they took, like the cast and crew were quarantined for the whole time that they were filming. They were wearing masks in between takes, but they still managed to get this feeling that this could have been filmed, you know, in any other time, and it would still be a triumph. It would still be an amazing movie.
That is a testament to a quality filmmaker and a really talented crew. So kudos to everybody involved with this movie. This is definitely, at least I'm pretty sure it's going to be nominated for some Oscars. It's got Oscar written all over it.
This is an award movie, whether or not it takes home like everything. And I don't want to like it is an incredible movie outside of any award buzz or any of that stuff. And I know we'll have that fun time come Oscar season, but Belfast will be on a lot of lists.
Yeah, that's my prediction as well. All right, so I think it's unanimous. We all would recommend this to everyone we know. Yeah. All right, so
loved it.
So good. So Belfast is now out in theaters. So check that out. It's awesome. I recommend seeing it on the big screen too, because it's just the scope of it all is really impressive.
Again, like I feel like every scene you could take a picture of it. It's just it is so beautifully shot.
Yeah, for sure. Awesome. All right, so Belfast, check that out, guys. And we got a couple minutes left, and I just wanted to go down some coming attractions for this week. And we've got, first up, House of Gucci, the tale of the Gucci family. Great cast in this: Lady Gaga, Adam Driver, Jared Leto, Jeremy Irons, Selma Hayek, and Al Pacino. And directed by one of the greats, Ridley Scott. We just reviewed The Last Duel a couple weeks ago, and that was a lot of fun. So yeah, expect the House of Gucci to be reviewed in the very near future. All right, next up, we've got a very different movie, Resident Evil, Welcome to Raccoon City. And it's set in 1998. I think this is a prequel of sorts to the Resident Evil film franchise.
I think I can help you on this one because I've seen the preview for it. And I love the Resident Evil games. Love those games to death. And it looks like it's supposed to be Resident Evil 2, which is with Leon and Claire. So it's supposed to be basically Leon and Claire having to survive Raccoon City being taken over by zombies.
See, my only Resident Evil experience, I used to play Resident Evil 2 on, I think, PS2 or Dreamcast, one of those. But
so you would recognize this one if it's Leon and Claire.
Possibly, yeah. The main hero is Leon, I guess.
I believe it's the two of them. Yeah,
the police officer. Okay.
Which the Resident Evil 2 remake? What a good game.
Okay, good to know. Yeah, I have to revisit those games. They're really good. All right, so next up on the list of coming attractions, Encanto, the new Disney film, which looks very sweet and very great animation on that one. So check that out. We also have a Japanese film called Drive My Car. It's a drama, and it's actually 2 hours and 59 minutes. So
quite the car ride.
Yes, it's a long road, it's a road trip. And next up, we've got The Humans, which is a drama. It also has a great cast: Richard Jenkins, Jane Houdyshell, Amy Schumer, Beanie Feldstein, Stephen Yuen, and June Squibb. And it looks like
sadly didn't get to see the play, so I'm looking forward to seeing the movie.
It looks like it was adapted from a play. So yeah, The Humans, I would check that out. And last on the list of coming attractions is a drama thriller called For the Love of Money. and it looks to be like a family business, shady dealings. It's got Cat Williams in it. It seems like he's the patriarch of this film, so it has some promise. Yeah, so those are the coming attractions for this week. But we have a few more minutes actually. Just want to go around doing some plugs. Rachel, I know you always have stuff cooking. What's going on?
Okay, so you can find me over at the Law of Donut Engineering, also known as The Lodge in Jersey City. I am the assistant pastry chef over there, and we're developing our flavors for December right now. So got a December menu coming out soon. And if you want to catch our fall November flavors, you have a little bit more time to do that. Some of our highlights are pumpkin cheesecake and sweet potato casserole. We have a pecan pie, and of course, some of the old favorites like monkey bread and apple cider donuts.
Yum, I love it. Do you have like dipping sauces too? Like
We do not have dipping sauces for the donuts, but we do have glazes that, especially the bites, are dipped in. Such as right now, we have a corn chicken, apple bite. Sorry, corn chicken bites, which is like a cornbread that goes over fried chicken,
okay.
and then it is dipped in a like a butter honey sort of dip.
Wow. That's crazy.
So,
I love it.
and you can also find me, of course, on Twitter at Rachel E. Kolb. You can find my theater writings on ludusnyc.com, and you can find my dog Dobby
No.
on Instagram at Dobby the House Doggo, and all of my cooking creations at Second Act Bake Shop on Instagram.
Wonderful. And actually, before I get to Eric, Rachel, are there any films that I mentioned above, the coming attractions that are interesting to you?
I'm most interested in the humans, of course.
Okay.
I've read the play. I didn't get to see it on stage, but the concept behind it and getting to read it, I really enjoyed it quite a bit. And I'm interested in House of Gucci just from a pure, I don't know what this is going to be standpoint. And that accent that Lady Gaga is doing in it is pretty wild. So,
yeah, I'm excited for that one, definitely. How about you, Eric? What are you looking forward to seeing?
As far as me, I'm in the same camp. Humans is definitely the one that most interests me. Sadly, never getting around to see the play, so now being able to see an adaptation of it, very excited. Plus, that is an amazing cast that's going to be on screen for that one. And I love Ridley Scott, even when he doesn't quite. And I still haven't seen Last Duel, and I really want to see it. But even when he doesn't do something that's good, I'm always fascinated. So him doing the history of Gucci, all right, let's see what you got.
Bring it on, bring it on.
Yeah.
And Eric, any plugs tonight?
I'm just going to keep, I'd say go to Rachel, because I'm the one that gets to do the taste testing, and it's always delicious. So she's the donuts that they're making there is phenomenal. So if you get a chance to, absolutely. But as far as anything personal project, I'm not really too much on my side. So Rachel's definitely the one that's striving for greatness.
Awesome. And again, Rachel, where is the shop located?
Yeah, Law of Donut Engineering is located in Jersey City. You can find it, I believe it's at the corner of Central and Bleecker in Jersey City Heights. But if you look up the Law of Donut Engineering, or you look up the Lodge, which is spelled LODG, on Instagram, the Lodge, you can find all of the upcoming deals. In fact, I think they have a social media promotion going on this week for Thanksgiving. So definitely check that out.
Cool. Maybe I'll visit in person one of these days.
Yes.
Cool. And guys, if you want to check out new episodes of Under the Radar, just go to Manhattan Neighborhood Network every Monday at 11 a.m. Eastern. Find new episodes there. Also, you can check it out on cable TV channels. And those are FiOS 34, RCN 83, Spectrum 56, and 1996. And also, as always, feel free to check out the Under the Radar YouTube channel, subscribe, and share. And guys, I just want to thank you so much. This is amazing. We'll see you next time. I'm Randy Younger. This is Under the Radar. Take care.